Welcome to another episode of Legacy Matters, conversations on faith, family, and future. I'm Blake Fuller, Director of Communications and Middle School Principal at the King's Academy. With me is Jeremy Sandefur, Head of School.
Thanks, Blake. Today's episode is a very special one as we are looking into the heart of community engagement. One thing we're really excited about today is having distinguished, I don't know about that word, that's a fun word, but a distinguished guest with us, Pastor Corey Kane from Seymour First Baptist. Together, we're going to talk through this process about how the King's Academy actively participates and contributes to the local community, but specifically our relationship with local churches, even more specifically with here at Seymour First Baptist. So welcome to the podcast, Corey. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. I'm excited to get to do this together. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So before we get started, would you mind sharing with our listeners just a little bit about yourself and your role here as pastor at Seymour First Baptist?
Sure. So I guess a little over 3.5 years ago, July 1st, 2020 is when I was called as pastor here, or started as pastor here, lead pastor here, and moved here from West Tennessee, had been in West Tennessee for about 20 years, and was excited to kind of come and have an incredible view of the mountains, every day. And been excited about what God is doing in and around Seymour. A lot has changed in the middle of that, but in the middle of that, there's some historical relationships that are the same. And this is one of those. And so we've been able to see kind of a rekindling of that. Even what I would say is a realigning of visions. I have had a historical perspective with what I knew as Harrison Chahowie Baptist Academy, or Baptist, because of, even from the other end of the state. I've served on Tennessee Baptist Convention boards since around 2006. And so historical relationship of seeing what's going on with Harrison Chahowie, the King's Academy. I've known Walt, former headmaster, for a long time. And though even then, I would not have been able to tell you that it was in Seymour, Tennessee, until we started talking to the church here. And so it really kind of interesting and excited to be a part of what's going on at King's Academy.
Absolutely. So at the King's Academy, our commitment to faith, family, and future, it really extends beyond the school walls, right? We believe in fostering strong ties with our local community. And today we're going to really shed some light on the meaningful collaboration between our school and local churches.
And as you mentioned, Blake, community engagement absolutely is a part of the cornerstone of our mission as we talk through that when we look at not only faith, family, and future. I think all three areas of who we are, it really fits into that. But do you mind sharing a little bit of your thoughts on why it's important for us as a school to be active in our community, and especially through partnerships with local churches?
I mean, absolutely. So, our engagement with the local community, it's about creating a strong support network for not only two entities, but for our students and their families, right? And to go and partner with local churches, it's so imperative that we recognize that as a Christian school, yes, we have the great blessing of being able to spread the gospel, share the gospel with our students. And we've talked about this just within the last couple hours. We're not the local church, right? And getting them plugged in with the local churches is so important, and it's so crucial for what we do. You have churches, they often serve as pillars of strength and guidance, and they align with our values of faith, family, and future.
To jump in there a little bit.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I've actually loved about King's in my time here is that it does not try to replace the church.
Mm-hmm.
So, and King's is uniquely aligned in that is because because it's not a school connected to a church. And so many Christian schools, most Christian schools probably are connected to a church in some way or another. But it's not even it's not connected to a church, but it's also not just its own independent organization. It's connected to our denomination through the Tennessee Baptist Convention. And so it is unique in that sense and how that works. But I really, really love that King's and its leadership understand we are not the church. Now, can we be foundational to Christian life and to our students as they begin to mature and understand and maybe even hear Christ for some of the first times or accept Christ? I know we've had students accept Christ right in their teachers' classrooms and everything. But that is different than being the church. And so I think it's important for a Christian school to point families back toward the church, because that's actually what's foundational for the Christian life. We aren't, every believer is not called to do Christian education. I truly don't think that. Jeremy and I have had some of those conversations. There's a lot of personal decisions that go into how education is done. And I can support almost any Christian choosing which way to go on that, as long as they're doing education. But every believer is called to be a part of the local church. And so I love that understanding and ability to differentiate that we see inside the life of Kings.
Absolutely. So, and you kind of hit on this already, but we're really eager to hear your perspective on how Seymour First Baptist and other local churches really collaborate with Kings and with other entities to make a positive impact on our culture.
Sure. So, like for me at First Baptist was even beginning to understand some of the historical perspective. Up until the 90s, First Baptist and Kings Academy shared a campus. Everything was linked together in some way, some form, some fashion. And even back to its beginning, it had been that way for a long time. Then we get here and begin to learn some of the history, and we know we've got some key families to the history of Harrison Chahowie, to former headmasters, and now exciting to see board members that were kids that grew up on campus and grew up as a part of their parents being staff and all of those types of things. And so we see that, but yet when I came, I would say that there was still a connection. Kings has been inside the budget of First Baptist Church for as long as it has existed. There could be a short period of time there somewhere where it didn't, but it has been a part of the budgeted process of Seymour First Baptist for a long time.
That is such a blessing.
Yeah, and but yet when I came, I think that connection and that relationship was strained, not cut off. So I don't want to say it was cut off, but it was at least strained to some extent. And maybe I haven't looked into the reasons why. I don't really worry about the reasons why. But it's been neat to see over the last, say, year and a half to 2 years how that has begun to re-engage. And I think that re-engagement really comes over alignment of vision. First Baptist, since I've been here, we've made a concerted effort to make sure that we are for our community. We are for Seymour. And it's been neat to be able to see Kings take on that same vision, that they are for our community. And I also think that helps as a connection for me at First Baptist, but I believe it also extends into our other churches.
Absolutely.
I know other pastors in the area well. They are very supportive of what is being offered at Kings, what's going on there. They feel plugged in and connected. And to me, our community is better when they see that Christian community connected and excited about reaching our community for Christ. It's not just one of us that is tasked with that. It's all of us that are tasked with that. And so to come alongside and support one another in that, I think is really, really good. So one of the ways I guess to talk about that reconnection is through our dorm students.
Yeah.
Again, I love that Kings is unique kind of in that. I mean, how many other Christian dorm schools are there in our state?
We're the only one in our state,
Yeah.
And then one of a handful in the country.
Yeah. So, I mean,
evangelical based. So you do have some other boarding schools that have different leanings and things, but from an evangelical Protestant standpoint, we're probably one of 8 in the country.
Yeah, and so that's a unique thing that we're trying to figure out too. I mean, like, so yeah, in every semester, every year, it alters and changes. But we are super excited about, because even that in the life of Kings, I think has altered over time. There was a period of time where those dorm students, a lot of them were coming from the mission field. They were missionaries' kids who had been, they came back to the States to do school while their parents were on the mission field. Really, we don't see that now. Do we have a single student that would describe?
Not at this time.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
There is a student from South Korea whose parents are very much involved in the evangelical church.
Yeah.
But he's still not an American.
Right. And so, again, there's been some historical shift and change in all of that. But when the dorm students started to come here and we started to try to figure that out, there's some things that you're sorting through and we're still trying to sort through. And I think in the end of that, though, is having a vision to present the gospel clearly to those students so that they see that in the classroom and they see that through their dorm adults. I don't know what y'all call them, dorm parents or but they also see the church as a place where they can be loved and supported. Yeah. And we're still trying to figure out how to do that best. We're also trying to figure out a way to do that so that there aren't misappropriated expectations there. Most of these students have little or no Christian background. And so something I always try to remind our kids ministry, VBS workers, student ministry, just all of our people in general, you cannot expect an unbelieving world to act like believers. Yeah. And so that is the same with some of these dorm students. We cannot expect, if they don't have a faith background, if they don't have Christ as their Savior, we can't expect for them to appreciate or understand the songs we sing and the worship that we bring and even the message that I preach. But we are super excited that they get to still hear it. Even if it appears that they're not listening, we know that God works even through those ways. And to me, that's super exciting.
It's been really awesome for us to watch students who have been in church, as you said, some for maybe the first time, but over the course of the year that they've been with us, Blake's like really turning red, and we're on camera, so we can see that.
Yeah.
But hey, we're gonna keep moving. If you hear us stop, it's to do the Heimlich or something, but he's all right. But we've been seeing kids starting to sing along in worship. We're starting to see them, connect. Can you tell us? We're talking about collaboration. I think one thing that really sticks out to me is the opportunity where several families in the church came along and sponsored our students to go to a camp. So can you kind of explain?
Sure. Yeah. So last year, one of our big events that we do for our student ministry is Strength to Stand. It has been a staple here for years. And Jason, our family pastor, as we wrapped up last school year, one of the things he really envisioned for better connection, just as we're trying to figure all this stuff out, was to be able to get the students away from campus, away from school campus, and away from church campus, so that they could just see our students, interact with our students, interact with our adults, and see worship and those types of things differently. I mean, I grew up in a great, thriving youth ministry. I'm not sure I experienced worship with 6,000 other students, and that's what Strength to Stand is. And so as we began to lay that out, we just, we were like, we didn't know how it would work. So we started talking back and forth and realized that, the best way for that to work was going to be for us to try to sponsor kids. And so we went basically through Sunday schools and said, hey, we've got a vision that any of our students that are our dorm students, that if they want to go Strength to Stand, that they could go. And it'll cost this much per student. I think it was around $125 or $150 a student. And I mean, within 2 weeks, we had all of them sponsored if they wanted to go. Yeah. And so they got to attend Strength to Stand without paying a single dime. And again, I think it was a great way to just break down some walls and break down some barriers to see, that our students are just like them in a lot of ways. They just want to go and enjoy and have fun. And I think even for them, from our perspective, was that they could just they didn't have to do or be anything specific while they were with us. And again, our goal is just to break down barriers so that they can hear the gospel clearly. And I think that again, it coincides with what King's goal is for them while they're on campus. And I think that's why that makes a natural connection and partnership while we're together.
Absolutely. And I am alive.
Yeah, good.
Did survive. I don't know what happened.
I'd offer you something to drink. That's right. I want one. So
no, we are good. So, in all of that coughing, I was listening, and you talked about how the collaboration that we have with the dorm students. It's been great. Just since I've been here, seeing that grow and foster and really build. With that, you have to imagine, because I know we face it every day, there's challenges that comes with bringing in international students who may not have grown up in the faith, may have grown up with speaking a completely different language, right, and the different customs. Talk to me about some of how you've navigated the challenges and just maintaining this collaboration.
So I think communication is key on that. So it's communication between us and the school, but it's also communication between us and our people. Like, so if there's an issue or if there's a problem, a couple of weeks ago on us Sunday morning, we had a couple people frustrated. But I don't even know the whole story, and that's okay. I don't have to know it got handled, but either over phones or just a little bit of
students doing what they should.
Yeah, that's right. You put 20 students, sit them together, you're going to, I have to go tell the middle school boys that are sitting together, to go watch out. And but the reality is we have to be reminded from time to time. We cannot expect unbelieving students to act like believing students. And so we have to communicate that regularly. But then also we look at that as opportunities. In all of that, we wanted them to know we aren't mad at you because of this. We may have a different expectation for you. Even back to student ministry and then going into parenting, Melody and I always tried to have high expectations of our students. Because to me, when you set high expectations, you have overperforming students. Mm-hmm. You have kids that are better than most. And so we want to communicate the expectation there. We want you to be respectful, and we want you to do these things. But even in that, we were able to communicate with again new dorm parents, communicate with April and Jeremy, and we were able to really set up something that may help them to be more successful, and that was really good. I think another side of that I'm seeing is more of our families that want to connect with them, and some of those are King's families, and some of those are not King's families, and they're enjoying trying to get to know them and see them and interact with them. And I think one of the things that we've been challenged with even this year is to think about host families. I know that King's is always trying to connect host families. We've kind of always left that as a King's thing to do. But I think even as we think about for next year, it would be if we can supplement or if we can be a part of that process to have some of our families connect as host families with some of those dorm students. And then even all that, as we talk about all this communication, it's not just about the dorm. It really is Seymour in general. I think about aligning to impact our community. And I think about, the pictures that I've seen of when the students are doing their serve days and they're going in and serving at the schools and cross ministry and those type of places. I think they served on our playground.
They were here.
Yeah.
Right down
and it reminds me of our Serve Seymour event that we do during the summer, where we come to y'all's campus and we go to every school and we go to Cross and we go to Montgomery Village. And it's that aligning of vision that I think becomes more and more impactful. It begins to help our community to see that we are for our community. We are not, again, whether Kings or Seymour First Baptist or Oak City or Shiloh or Valley Grove, that we are for our community and that we are believers and we have different personalities, right? That's why I always think about churches is that every personality is not for everybody, right? I mean, like I'm going to make somebody mad, right? And so they may not align with my personality or our style of worship. That's not a right and wrong. But vision to reach the community with the gospel better be a part of every church. And if it's not, then really at some point in time, you've ceased to be a church. Go figure out what religious organization you are or whatever else, but you're not what God has called you to be. And so I think that those things are neat to see how even those things have aligned with reaching our community and really kind of partnering together in that. We don't serve and do those things on the same days, but it serves our families well when they see that these are rightly aligned values.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, with any collaboration, any partnership, we talk through, by no means are we trying to proclaim that we've got this figured out and we're headed towards, a perfect relationship. But can you tell us a little bit just about, because I know you and I have shared our hearts on just the passion of Christian education, partnering with the local church. What could be done within other communities across as we look at, because we're really trying to help all of our families understand, regardless of what church you go to, regardless while your kid may be at King's, how do we as believers work within our communities to make sure that our students, as they're growing up, they truly do understand what we're all about?
Yeah, so I think one of those is putting the advancement of the gospel above preference and above organization. If King's was not sending their dorm students here, I think I told you early in your process here, man, whether you come to First Baptist or not, we are a partner. Yeah, we are a partner with King's because they're in our community trying to advance the gospel. And I think that's the big thing for us to see as believers inside the life of our church, where God has called us to, communicate with our families and even other churches. We've talked about education, but this is about education. As lead pastor of Seymour First Baptist, I'm here to support our families, and we have families that are homeschool families, public school families, and King's Academy families. We may even have, I don't know if we have another private school anyway, but anyway, we could. We have had. We have had. I'm here to come alongside to help families make those decisions that are right for their family. And that's not a one size fits all, and understanding that and helping people to walk through that. I love what is going on at King's Academy. But that doesn't mean it's the right fit for every person. I absolutely love and believe that Seymour First Baptist is doing exactly what we should be doing right now, to move the mission forward and to be the church here in our community. But I have no problems if it's not the right fit here. I've got no problems helping someone else find the right fit at the right church for them, because we have great Bible-believing, Bible-preaching pastors here in our community that are trying to advance the gospel. And I think that's the thing is, if as King's staff is able to help families see, we are a great supplement to your kids growing in their faith, but it's a supplement that is not the church, and the church has a vital, important part in the life of your students. And we can help you because we have connections. We know the personalities of some of these other churches, right? Yeah.
Not only joining here, but joining other local churches. Right. That's something that we always want to make sure that they understand, that our biggest partnership with parents is helping them understand their biblical responsibility as the discipler of their child. Yeah. How the church's role is in that. And then we as a supplementary, education is not it's not an ordained entity in terms of who we are within a child's role. But at the same time, we know as a school, we absolutely have a role to play.
That's exactly right.
We want to make sure we're doing that to the best of our ability.
Yeah. And, again, it's one of the reasons why I like to be on campus. I have a senior in high school that's decided to play every sport in the world this year. So it's made it a little bit harder to be over for basketball games or to be at football games. But I
always play.
Love to try to be there and be on campus, because I want those that live in our community to know that I'm here for our community.
And your staff, Sean and Jason. Sean's speaking in chapel. Jason.
Yeah, and I again, at the same time, I see Jeremy and other staff members that have kids that play MVP soccer on our fields. Yeah. That will stop to watch their other King's kids or their students from their classroom or whatever else. And again, to me, all of that is to help strengthen our faith families so that they understand that they are loved for and cared for, that God has a plan and a purpose in all of these, and that these don't have to be competing factions. Nowhere in the Bible are we going to see anything that supports competitiveness inside mature believers. You know, I mean, I guess Paul did run a race. You know, we don't run to lose, but that,
we're not tripping each other on purpose.
That's exactly right. And so, that's one of the big things to me that we see. You know, let's keep open communication. Let's understand who and appreciate who each other are, and let's do our best to encourage and, you know, fan into the flame those that are doing gospel work, so that we can do our best to help break down barriers and reach others with the gospel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, even though I almost died halfway through this podcast, I really appreciate you sharing with us. I've learned a lot just getting to hear from you the last little bit. Before we wrap up, do you have anything that you can share in terms of what you would envision the future of our collaboration?
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have everything figured out, but just some ideas, projects, goals.
Yeah, sure. You know, again, like the host families, I think, you know, we're hopefully going to share this podcast for our normal podcast, which is Seymour from the Front Pew or whatever else. Our listeners, I would say, all right, be prayerful now about being a host family for one of these dorm students next year. Mission Massa, which is what has brought Enoch and Eunice to our area. I say to your school, but we think of them as to our church. They are our students, and think about they've gone to camp. They've been here all summer. They've been here since Easter of last year, so a year. You know, in the next month they've been here a year, and but there are other students like them potentially waiting to come, and those need scholarships. You know, and so right now our church is not doing those specific scholarships. We like to give the money that we give to Kings as hands off, right to wherever Kings needs to put it or whatever else. But it doesn't keep an individual from supporting that and being a part of that. And I know that there are ways to be able to partner with that. So those are some of the ways where I could see that. And I think this is one of the things that I before Jeremy was even at Kings, was reminded some of our Kings families that we're here to be a help for that. So if we can come on campus to help something, if we can try to sponsor a sports team or a Love Gala. We tried to sponsor. I didn't get to come because we had a basketball game, but we are here to be a part of the community that you're trying to grow. And I think Kings is a part of the community that God is working in here in the life of our church. And in the middle of all that, I would say it doesn't mean that every Kings family ought to be a Seymour First Baptist, right? And it doesn't mean that every family at Seymour First Baptist is going to send their kids to Kings. But we can have an appreciation and love for one another that continues to encourage that all along the way.
Absolutely.
I mean, we really appreciate you and your insight and just your partnership and your love for our community and our students. And thank you for coming on this podcast. I'm going to warn you what's about to happen. He always asks a crazy question. So get ready. We can't end things.
It was not on the script, was it?
It may be buried somewhere.
So before we go, we like to end the podcast with something fun, something different from the day's conversation, just to get to know everybody a little bit better. So today's question, have you ever had an encounter or a chance to encounter a celebrity or a famous person in the past? And if so, what was the most memorable or unexpected moment from that experience?
Shoot, I don't know. Not real memorable, but when Melody and I, it was right after Thanksgiving, the year that she was pregnant with Caleb. We went to New York for a Titans game. I'm a huge Titans fan, and so at that point in time, Melody and I had gone to every non-Sunday game the Titans had ever had. Oh, wow. So we'd gone to every Saturday, every Monday game, and they were playing Monday Night Football at the Jets, so in New York, and so we flew up. And we're there, and we went to Tavern on the Green, which is in Central Park, and Melissa Joan Hart was there eating. She came through real quick or whatever else. So that's the one that I remember. There's probably some others somewhere. I don't think I've ever made a fool of myself anywhere doing that, but anyway, but that's at least one of those that I remember. So,
you got a rather easy question, and I'm pretty impressed with Melissa Joan Hart. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, all this kind of fun thing. Mine is, there's a picture still of me as a 7-year-old baseball player. Our little team got to go out with the Macon Braves. I'm from Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
Macon Braves were the 1A team at the time. And so there's a picture of me in left field with one Larry Wayne Jones, affectionately known as Chipper. So
There we go.
me and Chipper Jones have a picture that's somewhere in my mama's house still to this day. Him and then John Smoltz he was down there a couple years after that on a rehab assignment, and we all got to do a big old meet and greet and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's kind of
pretty much Atlanta Braves. But hey, it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll throw myself out
You
there.
better.
Somebody had said that I didn't share about the Valentine's Day last time, so all right, this is embarrassing, but I'm a big Florida State fan, as you guys talked.
That is embarrassing.
Yeah, we were just talking about bowl performances.
Yes.
And embarrassing that goes.
So speaking of embarrassing, met Jimbo Fisher after a Florida State football game one time.
I've heard
so
this story.
we stayed after. It was a miserable game. I think they played Savannah State. It was raining and everything else. But we stayed after. All the players came out. We had a football. I got it signed by all the players and everything. And then Jimbo comes out, and he's making small talk, whatever. And he asks me the most simplest question. He asked me, "Hey, where are you from?" And I'm from this super small town. It's always difficult for me to kind of tell people where I'm from. It's Palatka, Florida, in case anybody's listening and knows where that is. Craig Knatzer, by the way, does know where that is, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to describe where it is, and I'm like, do you know where like Gainesville is? I'm asking Jimbo Fisher, the head
Florida
coach
State head coach.
for Florida State Seminoles, if he knows where Gainesville, Florida,
The swamp.
where the swamp is. So he looked at me and he was super nice about it. He was like, yeah, I've been down there a couple times, So anyways, that's my embarrassing moment. So
But then they offered to drive you back to your cars.
they did, and I didn't take them up on it.
I was like,
Word.
if Jimbo offers to give you a ride,
Yeah, I don't know. I was all messed up.
you were still trying to figure out.
I did get to see 3 hit and runs though on the way to our cars, so that was fun too. So anyways, again, thank you so much for just taking the time and talking to us, and thank you guys for listening to us today for another episode of Legacy Matters, conversations on faith, family, and future.